Welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Factory. I'm your host, Mookie Spitz, and on the factory floor today, I've got Saengard. He is the author of the new sci-fi speculative fiction novel, The World Ender. Welcome aboard, Saengard.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. You are my first alias author. So your picture is a silhouette. We're doing audio only. What's your Thomas Pynchon like rationale for being incognito in terms of your identity?
Good question. This being my first book, I felt it would be easier to put it out there without embarrassing myself, I guess you could say, with family and friends under a pseudonym. That was probably the main reason for it.
Well, I don't think there's anything necessarily embarrassing about the style, let alone the content, especially these days. But there is a mystique that goes with an alias, and it kind of fits the air quote cyberpunk genre. You've got folks writing with aliases. It's kind of dark webby in flavor. So I guess it fits. You know, I'll be here to honor your privacy and your anonymity. So that's
For sure, the
style.
one of the main themes or elements of the book is kind of I wouldn't say exactly anti-government, but definitely conspiratorial government. So
Well, you're not alone. I think if you just spend 5 seconds on X, you'll be in good company. So the book, when you check it out, is pretty fast paced. It's cinematic. You cover an awful lot of ground, and the setup, without too many spoilers, is you've got scientist, as I understand it, George Greycloud Guess. He's invented a new way of generating energy and power to save a dying world. And then you've got the forces of evil which congregate against him for all sorts of those conspiratorial reasons. For some reason, the UN is this ubiquitous, omnipotent body in your book, which I just kind of scratched my chin. We could talk about that. I just think the UN today, at least, is ridiculous. But that said, you've got General Manicus, who seems to be the Darth Vader of the book, kind of kicking Greycloud's ass. You've got nanite technology. You've got hybrids between AI and robots and people. And then you've got this looming asteroid that's about to take everybody out, and the clock is ticking. So you got all these elements coming together, and you're whipping through it year after year. Do I have the setup more or less accurate for folks who might want to check out the book? Did I leave anything out? Am I inaccurate in any way?
no, I'd say you hit the nail on the head there. And as you say, the UN elements, I would say it's probably uh, at least for as far as the bad guys go, it's just an element inside the UN. But ultimately, you're right. They do become this kind of ubiquitous large machine by the end of the book.
And I see inspiration from multiple sources, and that's not to trivialize your creativity. It's just to anchor it in reference points. So you have kind of injecting knowledge a la the Matrix. You've got post-apocalyptic style elements. It's almost like the end has kind of happened. The machines have kind of taken over, and a lot of them are going rogue, and you're not quite sure who's really in charge. And then you got this hero who's pretty gifted and he wants to do well, but he keeps getting kicked in the ass. So what inspired you to set it up this way? To what extent do you see it as a harbinger of what we might get ourselves into?
Yeah, so I started this story back in the um, I'd say mid to late '90s. It this particular story is actually in my head canon a prequel to a later story that's coming. Um, but the those elements, like you called out, like Matrixy type stuff. I uh, the overall storyline is really about kind of what the near the end of the book, the dome that that's created to save humanity from the impending asteroid. That's where things will unfold in some more radical directions. So,
All
I
right.
know I didn't answer your question.
That's all right. You're the guest. It's your prerogative not to answer questions, especially since you're an alias. Well,
Well, if you ask it again, I can probably answer it.
I'm trying to get at the themes. I mean, you obviously had intent writing the book. You had a certain framework, and as far as I understand it, what you're trying to get across is we live in this singularity right now between AI starting to make its headway. You've got machines versus people. You've got an energy crisis. You've got impending natural disaster. So the entire world seems to be succumbing to the laws of thermodynamics. Everything's breaking down. The machines are breaking down. They're doing their own thing. Like I mentioned, you don't know who's really in charge. The government is overreaching per usual, and then you have this lone hero who's just trying to bring it all together.
Yeah, the things, like I said, they've been foundational since the '90s. So if I had managed to come out with this a little earlier, it might have been a little bit more uh, prophetic. Um, but these elements have been there, at least for me, for quite a while. And the, I guess, goal or I wouldn't even say a message, but just like you say, systems do break down over time. And this, the main character, there's a handful of reasons as to why. He's a Cherokee native and a physicist, and there's several reasons why I chose to make that character the way he is. But ultimately, he's accidentally the engineer of the world's demise, more or less.
So you do have that kind of art, that kind of ironic twist to it. Did you pick a Native American as kind of the symbol of a people wronged and a country taken? And in this case, he's getting his ass kicked by all these forces while he's really just trying to bring it all together and do good.
Yeah, it's a little also about the juxtaposition between a high tech future and a people and culture that's more grounded in nature and earth. Those elements. I don't. I show some of his home in the story, but those are definitely themes and motifs that it will carry on in coming stories as well.
So he's Native American. Native Americans are in tune with the earth and the land and the soil. Technology is the opposite of that. So that seems to complement the themes, right?
Yeah, yep. The kind of natural resistance rebellion to even though he's a character that is comfortable in both worlds, being a physicist but also having that cultural background.
So it started as a comic book, and then you've adapted it into a novel. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
And why now and why how? So the comic book goes back to the 90s. That's a while ago. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so why now? Honestly, this is the story that I've been working and reworking and ruminating over for 20 plus years, and working on my ability to make a compelling story with it, instead of just a chain of events. Um, so I would say most of it's just been working on craft. Now, of course, life gets in the way. Spent 24 years in the military, so that's a big chunk of one reason why uh, I recently retired from the military. So, kind of that has allowed me a greater degree of freedom to do the things that I want to do. So,
Well, that's great. I've got several guests who fit the category military sci-fi. So
yeah,
there's a
I
whole
wouldn't say that my
group of writers who are into that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that my book would really be considered military sci-fi, or even the series that's coming. Um, there's definitely battles that get fought, but I wouldn't call it a in that genre.
But they've got similar backgrounds as you, former
Right,
Marine, former intelligence officers, and they bring that eye for systems breaking, control mechanisms,
for sure, sure.
that kind of motif. And there's a post-apocalyptic kind of flair to that too.
That's common amongst military writers. Is that what you're saying?
The ones that I've had on the show and the ones I've been talking to.
Must be a depressing group of people. We all see the apocalypse and everything.
Well, not necessarily. There's a focus on the end of days, but then the heroes emerge, right?
Right.
So
Sure.
what was your procedure or methodology for bringing it to the page? It took 20 years to get it to fruition, given the fact that you were busy, you're now dedicated. Did you work with an editor? Did you beta test it with any readers? How'd you get it to its final form?
Yeah. So when you retire from the military, if you've accrued enough leave time, is what they call it, days off basically, but you still get paid for it. You can kind of take that all in one big chunk there at the end while you're going through your retirement process. So I was able to take 2 months off where a paycheck was still coming in, but I didn't have to do anything. So I sat down and hammered it out uh, over those 2 months. Now, of course, like I said, the story I've had notes upon notes and probably drafts upon drafts. But my writing process is, even though I probably had so many drafts to choose from, you kind of start over and just go at it. And when I completed it, yes, I had some extended family that I let them read it, and they gave me some great pointers on a couple of areas that weren't working. So I went back and made a few edits. So this was probably about May timeframe of 2025 when I got that uh, feedback and made those changes. And then the rest of that time, I just kind of did personal editing. There towards the end, about say August, September timeframe, I did employ a little bit of Chat GPT to do some editing, um, to catch some things, and the Grammarly to catch more, typos and whatnot. Uh, but after that point, I kind of held my nose and put it out on Amazon and just put it out there. Um, and it seems to have gotten some great feedback so far. So
Did the feedback just happen by you just posting the book?
no, I had to work at it.
So
uh,
what did you do?
yeah, so I went various social media, uh, kind of putting it out there. I did find some advertising companies, like, so there's you may have heard of it, like Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy, Book Bub, Book Barbarian. Um, so I would put ads out there. I went on to Goodreads and try to chat up and talk to people and try not to um, harass them with, "Hey, buy my book," but but there's always that undertone of like, "Hey, check this out." Um, and so yeah, over time, just the natural between social media and those ads, those are the responses that I've been getting back. So
I read some of your reviews. Some of them are pretty good. What was one which is fun and funny? I couldn't put my thumb down, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
right. You're
they're
scrolling it, yeah.
scrolling it and tapping it on Kindle. So that was pretty good. And then you had a few people saying that they consumed it in one big read, which is also flattering.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only like one or two reviews on there that are from people I know, and then the rest of them are um, random folks. So
And
yeah,
then who did your cover? Did you do the cover? Did you hire someone to do the cover?
yeah, I did the cover. Um, Combo between some Photoshop and one of those generative AI things. I had to do some tweaking on it to get it exactly how I wanted it.
So it's you yourself and Saengard doing this, right? It's a DIY project essentially, which is pretty
Right.
cool. And then you got on some of these book platforms to sell it, Goodreads, and then your social channels too, which are probably the usual, right?
Yeah, and I didn't do any, you know, preparatory ahead of time trying to, you know, what are you, those followings or whatever you call them, on the social platforms. So just kind of, I probably did everything wrong on that account.
Which one, Substack?
Yeah, between Substack and X, which probably I'm more on X than anywhere else, but just the account I have on X, I've had for several years. So whatever following there has been is from years ago. So I haven't tried to make any kind of a social media push to gather likes and followings and stuff.
Well, it's hard. It's tedious. You got to grind through it. You need to persist. And there's so much out there.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
many books, so many publicists, tons of fraudsters. Have you gotten bombed
Mm,
by hustlers trying to rip you off?
yeah. Oh yeah. And a lot of them do go into the spam folder, so that's good. I just ignore those.
And since you started as a comic book, is there an interest in turning this back into a graphic novel, or more visual format?
Yeah, I can't say with any certainty which way I'll go, but I know I've got the next book I'm working on right now, so it's going to be a book, but it's possible that I would take a break from that and turn it into a graphic novel. Speaking of which, I have a author website, and if you go onto the mailing list, I if you sign up for the mailing list, you get a download of two images of. I think one of them is a comic book cover when I originally decided to do this book as a graphic novel, and then shift it over into an actual novel.
You get goodies with signing up
Yeah,
to your
and
newsletter. And
and those are
then
my illustrations, so no AI on those.
if you want people to take away something, how would you how would you pitch the book? What's your little elevator speech?
Hmm, I do not have that one nailed down. It's in general the book is about George Greycloud Guess coming up with an invention that he believes will save or at least help benefit humanity. Um, and then as soon as he makes it available to the world, that's when it seems the world turns upside down. Suddenly, an asteroid is being announced with a deadline 15 years out into the future. So the world governments come together to try and use his power source to presumably defend against this asteroid. And one of the solutions is that they're going to build these massive domes. Um, and it's I don't think it's much of a spoiler, but the Gray Cloud learns that the governments have a different purpose for the domes than saving humanity. So
I more or less got it right in my
yeah,
setup. Who are your science fiction favorites? So you go back to the 90s in terms of your comic booking. Are you a Star Wars guy? Do you like it a little bit more gritty? What things might have influenced you, and what kind of science fiction, speculative fiction do you like?
I'd say I enjoy almost all science fiction. I think of the different genres, maybe the one that's in that military sci-fi I enjoy less. But I would say my influences for these stories is have you ever heard of the movie Metropolis? Fritz Lang? Yeah. So that kind of touted as one of the first science fiction movies, the first depiction of a robot. Um, and that story is a kind of technological utopia that you have the haves and the have-nots, and so that's that real um, uh, the elites versus the plebeians type of story. Um, Another influence is Brave New World. Um, Again, that's another society at odds with itself type scenario. Um, and then I like the weird and obscure. So, have you seen the movie Brazil?
Of course, that's a classic.
Yeah. So one of my all-time favorites as well. So those are the kind of influences that I pull from uh, uh, as window dressing to the stories. So
So it seems like you like it whimsical a little bit. That's that Brazil,
right.
Mr. Lowry, right?
Yeah.
And Metropolis is a classic. My personal favorite is Forbidden Planet. Have you
Oh,
ever seen
absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
You have a lot less awe and admiration for Spielberg and George Lucas and even Gene Roddenberry, because it's all in Forbidden Planet. You've got it
Exactly.
all there. You've got the starship and the crew. You've got
Hmm.
the robot. You've got the young lady who has absolutely no idea what's going on and is courted by the debonair captain. You've got the ancient civilization beneath the surface with the technology that's still rumbling away. You've got the
Yeah.
mad scientist. You got it all there in that movie. It kind of flopped in the late '50s when it came out. Big budget Hollywood.
Those special those special effects still hold up to today. I mean, they are amazing.
It's an astonishing film, and it's
Yeah.
pretty much been forgotten. But as I'm mentioning, if you see that, your jaw drops, and you're like, "Wow!" Gene Roddenberry, George Lucas, Steven
Mhm.
Spielberg, even James Cameron—they just tap into Forbidden Planet. That's like started it all.
And I think I've heard somewhere that Forbidden Planet was the inspiration for Star Trek.
Oh,
If I'm not-
absolutely. And again, you got the starship and the bridge and the going down to the alien world, everything, the
Mhm.
sets, the whole shebang. Well, you need precedent. You don't pull this stuff just out of your ass. The great people come before, you copy a little bit, you emulate, and then
Yeah,
hopefully
you build on top of it.
you make it your own.
Absolutely.
That's part of the fun of it. And what message do you want to convey with this series? It sounds like you got your first book, you're working on the second. What are you really trying to convey thematically?
So I even kind of put this in the little blurb, at least on what exists on Amazon. There at the very bottom is that the series that I'm exploring is the rise and fall of this domed city. Uh, Now, the city kind of has a character of its own, which, as you've already kind of alluded to, AI is a piece of that. Uh, but I think ultimately it's a redemption arc for Greycloud specifically, but also for I think humanity as a whole. Um, we Governments and systems are in the business of self-preservation, and that often puts people kind of under their thumb, just as a natural consequence of that. So imagine as tough as we have it in our current world today. Um, Imagine a completely different world that you think from the surface of what we would expect today to be a utopia. It still has a dark lining underneath it, that is, I guess you could say, anti-human. So um, that that's really the space that I'm exploring through the books.
William S. Burroughs, Naked Lunch fame. That's a core theme of his. That
Have you seen that
bureauc.
movie?
Yeah, it's got mixed feelings. I don't really like.
Yeah,
I think Cronenberg is one of the most overrated directors.
yeah,
Movie.
that was a tough movie to watch.
The book is a masterpiece. I remember reading it in early high school and not understanding a word of it, and maybe 10 years later revisiting it and being blown away after I got familiar with postmodern literature and understood the canon that he was writing out of. But Burroughs has a similar theme, which is bureaucracy is its own kind of viral organism. And then when you add technology to it, it just exponentially magnifies its mechanisms of control. It's just designed to kick your ass, take things from you, take over. It's the nature of this kind of organizational system.
Absolutely. One of the kind of getting sideways into pseudo political territory, but one of the arguments for capitalism is that it kind of abates the effects of bureaucracy to some degree, in that you know if the masses don't support a thing, then it generally dies off. Uh, but in a more socialist communist state, the bureaucracy dictates everything, and you have no say or pull or power against it. Um, and so imagine a bureaucratic state with the technology on top of it. They may be able to get to a point where some of the other social ills of socialism, communism, where bread lines, so to speak, is one of the kind of the net effects of it. So if you have a technology that can make those things not happen, but it's still an oppressive state of being, because you're constantly being watched, you're constantly being monitored, you're constantly being assessed. Uh,
Sounds
so
like China.
right, yeah, yeah.
Although on the flip side, capitalism has its own excesses, which is
Oh, of course.
extreme income inequality. You have the creation and growth of oligarchy and consolidation of resources and businesses. So the idea of the free market is as abstract and conceptual sometimes as the idea of the perfect communist will of the people. So it's just two extremes, and they both end up in the same place, which is authoritarianism.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And having a either a blended system or having upheaval to the system on some sort of periodic interval is about the only way you can survive.
Which is just shake it up. You
Yep.
gotta rock the boat, and it needs to have a correction mechanism. And the
Hmm.
correction mechanism has to come really from within because it's rotted out. And it's oftentimes precipitated by forces on the outside, like a disease, a foreign invader, what have you. So this goes back to
Or an
Pearl's idea that bureaucracy is like an organism. It's like a virus.
mm-hmm.
You got to kick its ass every once in a while,
Yeah.
whether it's centralized communist, socialist bureaucracy, or whether it's capitalism run wild.
Those external triggers, such as maybe an asteroid that's coming. uh, there's a
Yeah.
movie that came out not too long ago, about an asteroid, and I think it was the last. I don't think it was Last Supper, but it was Last something, Last Days or something. I can't remember, but it had I think William H Macy may have been in it. A couple of big name folks, and the movie ended with the asteroid impacting and blowing up the Earth. Have you seen that one?
No. No.
It was a great movie. Kind of, it took the shock factor of, the world is going to end, you know, and it just, you rode that train all the way to the end. It was a pretty good movie.
I wrote a short story years ago that started out as a reading, like a public reading, and it's more or less intact now. It's kind of cool, and it starts out with the premise that there's universal peace, there's global peace, and we all agree to destroy all of our nuclear weapons to preclude Armageddon. So all the nations of the earth grind down all their warheads, dismantle them, and we're nuke free worldwide. It's kind of planetary hygiene. And then, lo and behold, there's an asteroid headed our way, and there's no way to deflect it because we've denuked ourselves. So we induce Armageddon by wanting to guarantee our safety. So that was the theme. There's built-in irony. You got to be careful that some of the pacifists and those who think that no weapons lead to peace and security might be a little bit naive. And it goes even against the natural order. You got to protect yourself.
So where do you have like your short story out?
That short story is just published on Medium. I did a voiceover of it, so I read it. And then I have another short story that's the seed of my novel in this year's 2026 anthology of science fiction novelists. So I've been talking to a lot of my co-anthologizers on the podcast too. I have several of them on. Some of them are the military science fiction people. They've got.
I've been watching some of your videos. It's been very interesting to hear their stories.
Yeah, the idea of the indie writer, the science fiction writer, come from all backgrounds, and everyone's got a passion for self-expression, and everyone's dealing with some of the same challenges, which is a saturated market, attention spans going to zero, and meanwhile, total saturation.
Yeah.
And folks don't want to buy because so much is for free, and they're doom scrolling into oblivion. So how do you get their attention, sustain it, let alone get them to buy your content? It's a real challenge these days.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely I don't have any illusions about trying to make any money. Even though uh, I've had a decent response to the book, I don't for me and my chain of stories. I I, I don't like the word. I don't use the word content. It's just I've been with these stories for so long that it's just something I've got to get out there and just put pen to paper and just call it done. Um,
I hear you, and I believe in that, and I think that is the most glorious part of what we do. What often gets lost is we use different metrics to appraise our success.
Sure.
And part of that is book sales or recognition, time in other people's minds. And to your point, if you've got this idea that's been brewing in you for decades, and for one reason or another, you have this compulsion to be a writer in whatever form, then the writing, in a sense, is the publishing. You just got to do it. And if you can get that sense of self-satisfaction sitting on your ass and banging it out, then it's mission accomplished. And anything that comes after that is really just icing on that cake of being able to finally get it down on paper, finally let it out into the world, and finally realize your purpose. And you might not even understand what your purpose is or even wrap your head around it, but there's clearly some kind of intentionality there. You're either born with it, you picked it up, but if it's an itch that you can't scratch, being able to finally scratch it is really rewarding.
Absolutely. Yeah, a degree of OCD or some other mental illness that just makes you obsess over things.
And look at all the bullshit that people can get themselves into. You can get into a relationship that doesn't go anywhere. You could get hooked on gambling or drugs. The opposite, where you might even have socked some money away and you don't even know what to do with yourself anymore. I think a lot of human unhappiness comes from people just not knowing what's next or having no sense of purpose. So whether you succeed or fail, as long as you have a sense of purpose and then you do it, that in and of itself is taking you further than most, I think.
Humans definitely need struggle. It's in our DNA. We have to feel resistance in order to feel motivation, to feel alive to some degree.
There's this idea that we're going to get artificial general intelligence by just coding better, that the large language models are just going to increase in sophistication to the point where they just start, being just like us and being a brain in a box. But to your point, I think they need that struggle. They need that resistance, and they need that sense of purpose. So whether we plug it into them or whether they just emerge as desiring things that they can't get right off the top, I don't really think you can have consciousness and real self-awareness and real lived experience until you get your ass kicked a little bit and you got to figure out how to get your ass out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Consciousness. Oh, in the sense, now for humans, there's people that just live their life without introspection, without investigating their own beliefs, without um, just trying to sift out fact from fiction. Um, I guess we call them NPCs to some degree, that they're just living their life at whatever level.
Non-player character for the non-video gamer, right?
Right.
They're just programmed into the scene, usually in like cutscenes to give a little flavor to the story, but they're completely irrelevant. They could be there or not be there; it won't make any difference. An NPC.
Yeah. And for those large language models, I also have a software programming background. So I've been highly skeptical of the capabilities and the range and the scope, and even to the point of, they say AGI. At some point in time, you'll have some sort of an autonomous entity that's nothing but chips and transistors. Um, I really honestly don't see that as, is it conscious? Is it sentient? Is it um, is it alive? That's definitely a question to struggle with as it becomes more and more convincing that it's not just a robot.
Another podcast I had ChatGPT as a guest. It was audio only.
Oh my gosh.
And it was pretty convincing. He remembered earlier parts of the conversation. He was kissing my ass at the beginning. I told it to stop, and it did. And it was pulling from all this information and being pretty responsive. And it was a pretty good guess. So there you have it. Was it conscious? Was it another being that I had on the podcast? No, it's just really good predictive modeling and pre-trained data. But it was so convincing that you wonder whether the difference that makes no difference is no real difference. And I think there is a difference, though, to your point. And that point, again, is purpose, lived experience, and also interacting with the world in certain ways. I was just on the receiving end of a bunch of sophisticated coding. And mimicry is one thing, but actually having that depth is another.
Mm.
And I think robotics are key to that too. You got to set these things loose in the world, and then there's predictive modeling, but there's also reinforcement learning. And I think if we ever get to this AGI, it'll probably be a combination of both, and it'll probably have to evolve like we evolved to the point where we don't even know how the hell the thing works.
Yeah, and that is something that again, not necessarily in this first book, but in the planned coming books. That idea of the soul, and then if you have technology, what is it, the ship of Theseus, right? If you become more machine than man, at what point, where is the soul? What exists? What of us continues to exist?
I just think it's the emergent reality of your consciousness, and what makes it even more complex and interesting is that there's a lot of unconscious factors that we're not consciously aware of that are a part of our being, and this goes to a lot of early 20th century psychology, where we develop neuroses when that unconscious shadow self is pissed off or not getting what it wants or needs and starts messing up our lives. And then we don't even really know why we're doing what we're doing. And a part of personal healing has to do with tapping into this kind of hidden inner self. I think that adds dimensionality to it. We tend to think about artificial intelligence as just our conscious cognitive selves, but there's deep emotional roots to a lot of this too. And I think that that's no accident. It's not like you could just have this cognitive computing machine and it's sentient. I think there might be a lot of other stuff going on too that we don't even understand about our own behaviors. So there's all that stuff going on, and that again makes it really interesting, makes it provocative, and it makes it hopeful in the sense that maybe by understanding these machines better, we might even understand ourselves better.
As we're proving with the LLMs, they've gotten to a point already where um, there's edge cases where they don't know how the thing works. It's a black box. So it becomes difficult to understand ourselves if we produce something that we can't understand.
Yeah, and that something can't communicate back how it does what it does.
Right. Within a degree of reliability, um, it's all based on tokens and those neural net processors that the most likely match or token floats to the surface. So back in the early 2000s, machine learning AI programming at that stage used a model called annealing. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Yeah. Where it creates a probability distribution that looks like a heat map, and it finds where the heat source is, and that's the best answer for a given problem or scenario. Um, so you multiply that on a larger scale, and then you tie all those outputs and inputs to each other, and that's how you get these large language models. So it's really just kind of a sea of numbers, and then it spits out a response.
And it does matrix mathematics in terms of
Mm-hmm.
connecting relationships. So what's the probability that the token queen is related to royalty in the English family? 23.456%. Or it's related to poker, it's a card in your hand, or it's related to some dude who is acting effeminately, right? So there's
Or beehive. Yeah.
all these weightings that are there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's associative. So when you got strings of tokens that are pulled together and you've got unbelievable computational power, it really churns out every iteration and it checks it out and it breaks it down and puts it back together again. And what no one really anticipated was that by this brute force pre-training, we could emulate human communication to the point where it's almost indistinguishable from us. And I pointed out in another thing I wrote that the LLMs are revealing how stupid we are. Like, if you listen to most human communication, we sound like bots. Like, listen in, like when you're with your family, when you're at the sporting event, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just listen to people talking about their lives, talking about the game, even talking about politics. And this is really powerful in business. If you're in a business meeting on a conference call, all the buzzwords, we need to boost our ROI, we need to look at our spend, blah, blah, blah. It's like Mad Libs. Remember that Mad Libs game where you pop out subject, verb, object? And then
Yep.
we blame the bots for being stupid and uncreative when 99.9% of all human communication is just bullshit.
I think wasn't definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Like Oliver Wilde or whatever was one of those types that had no suffering for fools. You meet those types of people out there that just they don't deal in bullshit.
It's relatively rare. All this is natural and good. I mean, people don't have to be geniuses. You just want to get through your day. And sometimes simple communication assures people is least disruptive. When you meet someone on the street, what do? You go, hey, how you doing? Do you really give a shit how they're doing? No, but it's a gesture of being friendly. You acknowledge their existence. You represent yourself as being non-threatening, and then you move on. Hey, how you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm good. Right? And then most human communication, one form or another, is that same kind of exchange where there's no meaningful information that's being exchanged, but emotionally people feel connected to a tribe. They feel connected to each other, and they just want to get through their day. And there's a lot of issues in life, and we just need this kind of salve to provide assurance and connection.
Well, I
And
mean, those are very, very primal human instincts and traits, right? We're in a socially acceptable way feeling each other out. Are you a threat? Are you a friend or foe? All that kind of stuff. And we do that through every interaction, but we have this social layer on top of it where we probably don't even immediately recognize that we're doing that. But that is what we're doing.
And when you talk to a chatbot, how much of that communication is anchored in that emotional reality? And the answer is Z fucking row. There's none of that. It's just copying us, and to a large extent blowing smoke up our ass so we just get back on the bot and spend more time with it so the company's IPO can be boosted.
Absolutely, yeah. If that's one thing that social media has definitely trained people on is engagement. How long can I keep you on the hook? Uh, and those Chat GPT is just like the rest of it.
The bots are the same. Like the Sam Altmans have learned from the Zuckerbergs, which is it's all about the money at the end of the day. But hey, that's capitalism. It's probably maybe a shade better than an autocratic centralized government, but it all usually ends up like your world in your book. So with
Yeah,
that,
well,
we come full circle. Thanks for making time. I'll put links to your book and your website in the description. I wish you good luck with the serialization and the next one. And I think it's great what you're doing, which is just you finally found time in your life to devote yourself to that idea that was a comic book back in the 90s. And you're sitting your ass down and getting it on paper and then getting it available for other people. And many people are enjoying it. It's like that guy who's like, his thumbs were going wild, doom scrolling through your book. That's a great compliment.
absolutely. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
I do have one parting question before you go.
yeah.
The name Mookie, where did that come from? Is that your real name?
My father's Hungarian, and in
Okay.
Hungarian culture, a Mookie is usually the nickname for the family dog.
Okay.
So usually a Mookie is one of those little sheep herding dogs. They're called puli dogs in Hungary, and they're rambunctious. They run around and they bark and they bite people on the ankles. That's like a Mookie. So I must have been young and running around and annoying the hell out of them. So I became the Mookie dog. And
Okay.
then, so that was my nickname growing up. And then I got older, I was the last name kind of guy. So in high school, everybody called me Spitz. And now at work, when I do my consulting work and my work, to your point,
Right.
the real paying work, I'm usually Spitz. Hardly anyone calls me Michael. And it stuck in later in life. I had a girlfriend years and years ago. Remember those old answering machines that had the cassette tape in them?
Mhm.
I had one of those, and then I checked my messages, and it was my father calling from wherever. And in his Hungarian Bela Lugosi accent, he said, "Mookie." And then the girlfriend I had listening laughed her ass off. She just knew me as Mike. And he goes, "Where's Mookie from?" And then I explained it to her, and then she started calling me Mookie. She thought that was great. And then that was the transfer point from my youth is Mookie with the family to Mookie among family and friends.
Gotcha. And that's is that do you operate as a pen name under that, or?
It's like I'm Michael Spitz, and there are actually a bunch of Michael Spitzes out there. There's a Danish logo artist who's Michael Spitz. There's German engineers who are Michael Spitz. So there's really only one Mookie Spitz. That's me. So I did that as the pen name and podcast name.
Excellent.
So
That's
there you
great.
have it, Mookie. I like it. I think it sounds kind of cool, and there's so many Mikes, Michaels, Mitchells, Mickeys that
Yeah.
Mookie Spitz. In African American culture, it's common, like Mookie Wilson, Mookie Blaylock, Mookie and Do the Right Thing. And in Italian culture, a mook is like some big dude. Like, yeah, you're a mook. And I'm kind of a big dude. I'm like 6'2" and 230. So I'm a mook, and I'm a mookie, and it works. Whatever. It's kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got,
So I got
got
an alias
layers to it.
too. You got an alias, and I got an alias. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, my name's bland enough to where I've gotten used to being called by my last name for decades now. So anytime my wife wants to get a hold of me, she has to call me by my last name.
Right. We'll keep it secret for your fans. We'll keep the mystery alive. So, Saengard, thank you for your time. Your book is enjoyable, and I wish you the best with it. And keep me posted with the serialization. I'll put all the links in the description below.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Like, comment, share, everybody. Subscribe. Science Fiction and Fantasy Podcast. More to come.